Hey there, I'm Becky, and welcome to Literary Escapes with me, Becky.
Thanks for joining me today as we talk about all kinds of great bookish escapes.
Today I'm talking to author Stephania Thompson. If you're a fan of romantic suspense, you're going to want to check out her book called Woven. Let's jump into the interview.
So how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be on here. This is my first podcast. So
Yay! I'm so excited.
I'm really thankful that you're having me on. And I'm sure you hear from like a million other authors. The best thing I think about publishing a book is getting to talk about it. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that, and I'm excited to hear all about it. I was looking at it. Okay, so I want to jump into your book, but let me back up just a
yeah,
minute
no,
here.
no.
So, how did you get into writing?
Okay. So I'm an accountant by trade. So I like back in high school, I took an accounting class and I was like, I love this, and so that was kind of, but I always had writing, has always been something I wanted to do. I think probably you hear from a lot of people, avid reader from a very young age.
Yeah.
Um, I'm an only child. And so I spent a lot of time alone. My father was really sick a lot of the time when I was growing up. And so I was alone quite a bit, and I read, and books were like my companion. And
Yeah.
I love how like your podcast, Literary Escapes, and how you go to like the different places. And I was thinking about that as I was kind of listening to some of your episodes, and I was thinking, for me, it's almost like escaping into a character's mind and into their reality, not so much the setting, but almost like um, I don't know, their mental state, like where they're at. That
Okay.
was like a big escape for me. I feel like I more so even than settings or plots, I identified with characters. And so that was always kind of escape. So I always knew I wanted to write. I used to write, I have thousands of little stories and, chapters started. But life and so I did the accounting thing and kind of knew all along. I knew that really wasn't where I was supposed to be. But I got my CPA, I followed through,
Yeah, do what
and
you feel like you need to do.
yeah, and it was good. And I met my husband at work. We have a really fun story, actually. So that, so I wouldn't trade it for the world. That was sort of the path that like led me to him. But like, I always had that sort of nudge, like, oh, you should be writing, you should be writing. I mean, I can go back and look at my journals, and every year, like at the, when you write your goals for the year, there's
Yeah.
always like, start the book or get, so, and I little along the way, I took little classes. I heard in one of your podcasts you had interviewed, and I can't remember the author's name, but she started with that. So you think you can write through like Harlequin and all those do those contests and stuff. Like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had entered some of those, like so along
Okay.
the way I'd done these little things, but never really serious about it. And what finally got me was my son had an accident. My two sons, I have four kids, three boys and a girl, and my two middle sons were biking and they were playing chicken, and they ran into each other. And just a very freak accident. He was 7 at the time. He fell and he had a compound fracture in his arm. It was quite serious. We were near DC, so we were back and forth to Children's Hospital. He had a number of surgeries. It was, and it kind of set us on this path. Well, when all that was going on and I was going back and forth for him, um, I don't know if a light bulb clicked or whatever, but it was just like I was like, life is short. I've got to do this if I'm really going to do it. So that was kind of when I started with the book with Woven.
Okay.
That was sort of the path I got, and I didn't tell anyone, and it was more for me. At first, I was just going to write the book just for me, and but then I started giving some chapters to my mom and a few friends, and they're like, "This is really good. Like you need to do something with it." So that's kind of what got me.
So, did you have the story in your brain, what you wanted to write?
So hit the, and I would love to pick some other authors' brains and see how because I know everybody's process is different. I knew I knew the end. Like I knew the end before I even knew their story. I kind of like,
Okay.
I just had this vision of I could picture the room, the scene of what was going on. And I knew the characters. And so I kind of, in a weird way, really got to know the characters, and then I brought them along with me for the year or two that I was writing it. And so there's a lot of there's not I wouldn't say I wrote like me or anybody in my life into the book per se, but there's a lot of events that I was like, oh, if Josh was here, what would his reaction be? I kind of like would bring them with me to something, and that's kind of how the book came about.
How interesting. Yeah. That's a neat way to do it.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, there's things would come up. Yeah, even ended up making some changes because um, I would have an idea for a specific chapter or a scene, and then like my husband and I went to this really fancy art gala, and there was just all these really unique characters there, and it was a really fun experience. And I was like, this has to be in the book. So I kind of morphed that into their story, and so I kind of
Oh,
brought
that's
them
fun.
along. Yeah. So
That's really cool. And so your story is a romantic suspense.
yes, I think that's the best way to categorize it. I also, you kind of write, I think, what you want to read, and I'm definitely like a cross genre reader, so I
Mhm.
feel like pegging it in one specific category is tough. But if I was going to give an overall umbrella, I would say romantic suspense, because there's definitely this element of sort of mystery and suspense running
Okay.
throughout the story. Um, I don't know what the right word is. I mean, it definitely the prevailing, I think, theme is really this enduring friendship and love that these three young people like have for each other. And so I think that if there's one theme I could get across, that would be it. But there's
Okay.
definitely, they've got this past that they're sort of trying to cope with all along, kind of, dealing with the stuff that's going on with them in the present.
So why didn't you tell us what the story's about?
Okay, so let's see. Well, it's set in Baltimore, and
Okay.
that actually I was going to set the novel in DC, because when my son and I had been driving back and forth to Children's, what really inspired the three of them, there was this adorable little row home was very brightly colored, and we would drive by it almost every time we went down. And a
Yeah.
lot of times I would see these three kind of young people coming in or out. You get to you kind of watch.
Yeah.
You see. And there was like young professionals, and I can remember sitting in the hospital thinking, like, what's their story? Like, it was two guys and a girl, and I'm like, I wonder, what's their deal? Like, what brought them to live there? So that is kind of how I started thinking about it. And my husband and I say we live in like a modern day money pit. Our house is like, we are constantly doing repairs. And so I felt like that's something that's like heavy on my mind, is always like fixing things. And so I was like, all right, well, they're going to be in Baltimore, and they're in a Canton row home that they're renovating, and it's kind of a mess, so that they nicknamed it the Canton catastrophe. So that's sort of the premise. They decide to come together. They're in their mid-20s. They come back together. They've grown up together and have had this kind of dark past. They come back together to kind of, they've never really dealt with the things that have been plaguing them. So they decide, we're going to renovate this house. We're going to try and deal with the things that we've never
Okay.
coped with before. But there's also some interplay amongst it. They've all sort of been romantically attached to each other at one point or another. There's a lot of avoidance of emotions and things that that really need to be brought into the open. So on top of that, as the story progresses, you find the character David is battling some bizarre sort of health problems that they can't put their finger on. And again, parallel to life, this was my son after he had his accident where he broke his arm. He started developing these weird symptoms. Like we couldn't figure out what was going on with him. For a number of years, he was just blacking out just randomly. We didn't know what was going
Oh,
on.
wow.
And so that kind of led into David's character, because while I was sort of investigating what was going on with my son, and I don't want to give too much away about like what ends up happening to him, but some of the different diagnoses that or I don't know what you want to call it, different type of medical conditions that could cause someone to be passing out just kind of randomly and have some of the other symptoms that my son had. I was like, well, what if one of the characters was battling with that? So that sort of comes into play. So, as the book is progressing, David's health is deteriorating. Someone from their past comes up and they find is following them with, they're not sure, what this person's intent is.
Okay.
And so the clock is sort of ticking down for them, and they've got this, they've got someone sort of after them. They've got these romantic feelings for each other they're trying to avoid and not so successfully avoiding. And they've got some issues with some things that have happened in the past with their parents. So it's all kind of comes to
All
a head.
coming together, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that you started with the end, that's what came to you first, that you
Yeah.
knew how it was all going to come together.
Yes. Yeah. That was, I knew, like I had that vision and yeah, when we were going through the editing process, we at one point I know the editor was like, I feel like we should change this at the end. And I was like, no, like I knew the end.
You are not changing my
Yeah,
end.
that's the one thing. Everything else I knew that.
That's
I knew
funny. And so how was it, like, typically like in a romantic suspense or a mystery or that kind of a book, you have to throw in clues or herrings or that kind of a thing throughout.
Yeah.
And so how did that go for you?
Um, there was a lot of rewriting.
Yeah.
I think I would say, so the book took from beginning to end, it was several years, but I think I probably wrote about 4 complete novels in that whole time. With
Yeah.
I was learning. It was my first book. I wrote. I'm a pantser, not a plotter. I'm
Yeah.
more of like the character. I feel like I'm more one. I'll sit down and I'll be like, okay, where are they at today, and kind of get inside their head.
Okay.
And so I'm more that than this and this needs to happen in the scene. So with the suspense and the mystery part of it, it was almost like I did more what's going on with them, and then filtered in the backstory, because I think the suspense and the mystery is definitely it's moving the story forward, but it's definitely the backstory in my mind. Like it was there to move their story forward, but definitely at the forefront was the relationship.
Okay.
So I feel like I did a lot of weaving the backstory in after I had written sort of the scene interactions among the three.
That makes sense. Okay. Because I've talked to another romantic suspense, and hers, the suspense part is
Yeah.
the main part, and the relationship is the backstory. And so I think for her, she wound up kind of weaving in the relationship.
Yeah, I could see, and I could
That's
see that.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, so I'm working on, so this is, it's a standalone, but it's part of a series. So this series is called Charm City Threads, and I'm working on the next 2 books, which are timeline wise kind of next to each other. And I
Okay.
definitely learned a lot from doing the first, as far as, now a little bit more intentional with how I weave like sort of backstory and dialogue and relational, interaction
Yeah.
together. Which makes it a lot easier and goes faster than
Right. Right.
writing down and then going back. But you learn a lot as you go through the process for sure.
Right. And
Um,
you are not indie published. You're published
I'm with a
by
small press.
Yeah.
Yep, Orange Blossom Publishing, and they are wonderful. It's been the best experience. I was just at a writers conference this past weekend, the Maryland Writers Conference, and just listening to everybody talk. A lot of people are indie published, which I think is amazing, and it's so great that there's so many avenues to do it now, and it's such a it makes publishing and getting your book out there so accessible to so many people that just 10 years ago wouldn't have been nearly as easy to do what they're doing.
Agreed.
So once I wrote the book, I did try to, I queried it for a while, but then that was right when the pandemic hit, and everything kind of slowed down for a bit. And so I kind of taken a step back, and yeah, the small press was a really great way to go. I feel like I've been very.
How did you find them?
Through the Twitter, like a Twitter pitch fest. They do yeah, and which has been, Twitter has been one of the greatest for me to meet other writers and to grow in my writing. Twitter was a really great platform. I think more, I know a lot of writers are more like on Instagram and Facebook, and definitely for connecting and hearing about different books and things like that. I think those are great platforms for that. But the writing community on Twitter is so supportive, and
That's cool.
just a really great I don't know, it's been a great resource. I've met a number of really good like online friends that way. And so they do these pitch fests every quarter. They used to. I've been out of it for a little while now,
Yeah, yeah.
But and you know, the agents or the small press or whoever's going through will go through and like your pitch. And
Okay.
so actually I had quite a bit of success with the book, you know, kind of interacting with a number of agents and small press that way. But ultimately, it worked best with Orange Blossom, and it's been, I can't speak highly enough of the process. It's been really
That's awesome.
wonderful. Yeah. And I
Okay.
know not everybody has that experience, but I mean, it's been a collaborative process from the beginning.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
That's
really,
cool. Yeah, it's so interesting to hear like everybody's path and
yeah. Well, I know you're, so from listening, I know you're in the process of writing or have written and
I am, yeah, I'm
yeah,
in revisions right now and
that's very exciting. Do you have
it's,
like a timeline in mind, like when you're wanting it out? And
I'm hoping next year
okay,
to have it out next year is my goal and hopefully like mid-year.
yeah.
Um, but it's funny because mine is set in Nashville and I'm in Nashville
Love
right
that.
now to do some research for
Yeah.
it. And it's like, oh my gosh, all of this is wrong. And so I'm so glad we were able to come here.
That's, that's so funny you'd say that. That is so, because I feel like I've done that a number of times where I
Yeah,
wrote about something, even, okay, like I worked in the city for years. I've spent a good amount of time in Canton, in homes that have been rehabbed in the, you know, and I went back not that long ago, because I'm not in the city as much anymore. And I was walking around and I was like, I really need to tweak some things.
well, that's yeah, because I mean, I'd been through Nashville, but I'd never been in Nashville,
Okay.
and I was kind of picturing the downtown a different way.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I definitely need to change that.
I do
The
think it's
character
changed.
wouldn't
It
be
has
there.
changed. We went right before the pandemic, and then we were just there this past spring. And I feel like in that, whatever, 4 years, maybe it's changed quite a bit, the downtown area.
That's what I've heard
Yeah.
from locals, and yeah, it's very noisy.
Yes, yeah, noisy and bright. It's kind of like a little mini Las Vegas when that strip
That's
rolls
exactly right. Yeah. That's
are
exactly.
also around. I mean, the growth of the different neighborhoods all around
There's
the
some
downtown
really beautiful
area.
neighborhoods. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
fun.
been fun exploring all the different parts of it. So,
I'm gonna have a scene or several chapters in Nashville in
oh,
the
fun.
third book in the series. So
Okay.
partially because I've been there several times and I'm familiar with it, I'm like, yeah, this would be, I can write from a point of knowledge or some knowledge of, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. So the second book, is it done?
No, so I'm working on both. I mean, again, I know where, I know how it's ending, I know where it's going, and it's mapped out, and it's about halfway done. I'm about
Okay.
half.
And so it's the three friends still?
Yes, the second book is the three of them, or well, it's the continuation of their story.
Okay.
And then the third book is sort of a side story of one of the characters that they met in the first book. So
Okay.
it's
Okay.
her story.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
That's kind of fun. I mean, you know, again, with my whole thing, like I really relate to books that where you connect with the characters. And I mean, I do love, there's so many now. I mean, it's like, you know, where you have the whole series set around a family or around a town where you kind of, you know, it's not necessarily based on all the characters, but some of the characters, you know, walk in and out of the different books, and you know,
Right.
it gives you a kind of a community feel, and I like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Is that kind of what you have or?
So there definitely will be, yes, and that is the challenge too, because you don't want to give away too much of any one storyline in the other books. So, yes, the characters are kind of making little, what do you want, like cameos in each
Yeah.
other's books,
Yeah.
that will make sense. But yeah, with hopefully trying not to give too much of the individual books away.
Okay.
What's going on with them? Yeah.
So when did Woven come out?
It came out the end of June, June
Nice.
28th of this past. So it's been out for about close to 4 months now.
That's
And
exciting.
it is exciting. Tomorrow I'm doing a grand opening of a Barnes and Noble, so I'm
Ooh,
really excited about that. Yeah, that should
that's
be a
very exciting. Wow.
yeah. So yeah, it's been kind of a whirlwind and a lot of fun to see how. And I'm sure you'll find this when your book comes out. It seems like such a daunting process and like so overwhelming to think about getting into stores or talking, but like most bookstores are so welcoming of like local authors and indie authors.
Yeah,
I've had a really great experience with a number of signings and just events that have been just wonderful. It's a great community. The writing
that's really
community
cool.
are
Yeah,
very welcoming, especially people, like local authors and like the, kind of local vibe right now, I think is really, in being embraced very well.
that's awesome. Yeah, and there's so many authors that
Yeah.
as a reader, it's I there well, number one, there's never enough time to
No.
read them all. But it's so nice to, I mean, I love meeting and talking to and reading new authors
Yes. Yeah.
because, how else are people going to hear about them?
Right.
And,
Right.
um, but it's just, there's so many really good books. There's
There
so
are
many really
so
good.
many, they really are. It's overwhelming. I met with a local. She's like an editor. She has a podcast. She's really an amazing woman who just hypes up the writing of so many writers. She's just out there really promoting and just being incredibly encouraging and supportive of a lot of authors that people have both heard of and that are new on the scene.
Right.
And what was I going with this? We were talking about. No, we met and she said something about, oh gosh, what did you say that? Now I'm having a moment. 4 kids will do that to you.
Yeah, they will.
We're talking about just hyping up books. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. We were talking about, I asked her, I said, how do you keep track of your to be read list? Like what you want to read? Because I'm so overwhelmed. I'm like, oh, I want to read that book. Oh, I want to read that book. And I like
Right.
you almost shut down. You're like, it's too many. Like, I can't. But she was talking about doing like she would do screenshots and she had a
Ooh,
whole album that she would just keep and she was like, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. But at least
wow. Okay.
if you see something, if you're scrolling through like Instagram or whatever, just do like a little screenshot or
That's interesting. That's a really good idea.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, to keep track of, I mean, there's so many. You could go a lifetime without hitting all the books that you
Oh,
had to read every day.
without even, making a small dent in it. And
Yeah, yeah.
I'm envious of people who are the really fast readers who can plow
Oh
through a
yeah,
book in a day. And, I can't do that. Just time and
yeah.
reading ability. I just
I'm
can't
not,
do that.
I'm a huge audio girl. Like I've had Audible for years and I don't know, I wouldn't, my kids, they know like if I had the AirPods in, I'm like, I'm really not really listening to you. Like you can talk to me.
You can
Love
talk, but
yeah, so that I feel like that has been a really good way to get through
get
a lot of
get
books
more books in.
where I
Yeah.
wouldn't have had dedicated time to sit down. And and that's like such a huge goal. And is to get the audiobook. I feel like that's sort of my next big,
Ooh,
I
that's
feel like with Woven, I'd like to get it and because when I edit, I'll write and then I'll say if I go out for a run or for walking, I have like mobile Word and I'll listen to what I've just written and then I edit that way. So
okay. That's a really interesting idea. I like that.
I catch so much that way. Like I can read a paragraph and just keep going, but then I'll listen to it and I'm like, oh, I have the there twice, and I totally missed
Yeah,
that. Or what I pick. I feel like I pick up quite a bit more that
that's
way.
cool. I like
And
that.
flow and Word is great. They have all these. You can choose your voice. You can choose the pacing. Yeah, if you're as a writer, that is the best.
That's really cool.
That was like changing for me when I discovered that it would just read to me and then that I could take it on the go
Yeah,
or in the car, whatever. It's been really helpful.
that's interesting. Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
So what are you reading right now?
Um, let's see. What did I just read? Um, I just read the one by, I don't want to say his name wrong. It was a really, I mean, it was a really interesting book. And they made it into I think it's into a Netflix series.
Huh.
But I want to, wait, I want to give credit. Here it is. The one by John Mars, Marrs. And it was a fascinating premise. And I don't even know, you know how sometimes like you stumble down a rabbit hole and you just stumble along a book. And that was kind of, I didn't even know what this one was about
Oh,
going into
wow.
it. I was just like, oh, this looks interesting. And it was just a very, it's a fascinating premise. It's like, if if like it's like a dating app, but it's based on your DNA. So it matches you
Wow.
like your perfect match. That's the person that's sort of like chemically well matched with you, right? But and it follows like
Huh.
multiple, you know, people and relationships, how they get matched through this app. But like it explores, you know, well, what happens if you're with someone else who's not your perfect DNA match, and like and sort of the pros and then the downfalls of this type of
Oh,
dating.
that's
It
interesting.
was a really
Yeah.
interesting book.
How
Yeah,
clever. Huh.
mhm. It was very well written, and I love the way he kind of wove it all together. I thought it was quite good.
That's fun. Do you
So yeah,
typically read romantic suspense? Do you read what you write, I guess?
I do to try to, you know, stay in it, but I'm sort of all over the place. I don't, there's not like one particular genre. I mean, I try to go all over the place. I do tend to like an element of mystery or suspense in the books that I read. I
Yeah.
also, I tend to like things that are a little bit darker. I'm not a series romance happily ever after kind of. I mean, I appreciate those books and have read tons of them. I have, you know, but if I'm gonna, I like a little bit more, I don't know, dark reality, like in the right.
Okay. Yeah. A little grittier, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so, yeah, I mean, as far as romance, I think there's, you know, you talk about like the pandemic. I think romance has sort of exploded on the scene because it's so it's so beautifully, I don't want to say predictable, but like
But it
especially,
is.
you
Yeah.
know, but it's like, you know, they're going to end up together,
And that's, yeah, that's,
you know,
you
and
know,
that's
if you pick up a romance, there's going to be,
right.
at the very least, a happy for now.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Happy for Now fan. I just don't like, I kind of am more, I like books that leave you like oh man, like I'm a big Colleen Hoover fan. Like very, I don't know if you've read any of her
No, I
but
know
like
she's a big thing
yeah,
right now. Yeah.
yeah, and you know, I like the end where it's tied up, but you know, you still have that feeling like, well, could it have gone, you know, like so
Yeah.
lets you kind of I don't know, write a bit of the story in your own mind or something like that. But
Nice.
yeah, so I tend to prefer books like that when I'm reading, but sometimes, you know, it's nice to just escape into that very comfortable, cozy,
Yeah. And
you
I
know.
think, like you said, the last couple of years, we've needed
Yes,
the
for sure.
easy escape. Yeah.
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 And for me, definitely writing this book was that as well, because I had, you know, my husband also, his job transitioned to home. So I went from being at home and doing kind of my own thing for several hours at least a day,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
to
Everybody's here now. Yay.
everybody, like all six of us here all the time.
All the time. Pretty
So,
exciting.
yeah. So like I heard you say a couple in some of your different episodes, you know, about um being able to not being, when you weren't able to travel, at least you could travel inside your books, which I
Yeah.
think is like amazing, and what a great concept for
Yeah.
a
And
book
that's,
club to be able to just travel like that. Like it's I think that's a great concept, and what a great idea, especially in the last couple of years. And
yeah, I definitely needed it.
oh my gosh, yes. I mean, and
Yeah.
nothing will do that for you like books. Like movies, nothing will do it for you like a book. I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, nothing draws you in more. And so that's a great idea. And I felt that way with writing. It was like like I even would shun, you know, I wasn't watching TV, I wasn't doing it because I was like, I can escape. It was like a mind
Into
escape.
your
I'm like,
own world. Yeah.
I'm gonna get into this guy's mind for a little while and get out of my own, you know.
That works. Yeah. That's a really good thing. It's so interesting to hear how different people got through, I guess, the last few years. And some people couldn't write, some people wrote. That was kind of their savior. Some
Yeah.
people did a lot of reading, some people couldn't read. It's so interesting how it was so different for everybody. And
I can only imagine the studies like for the next, decades long on like the far reaching impacts. And I mean, I had kids, in all different schools, just seeing like even how,
yeah,
and seeing as they go back, how learning has changed, how that's changed the way they approach,
right.
what they're doing. It's definitely, it'll be interesting to see how it all,
Agree. Yeah, I agree. It'll be
how it all.
interesting to see what we learn from it because it seems like there could be some good things to learn.
I mentioned Twitter, that was I've been getting active on Twitter right before the pandemic started, and I write a lot of poetry on there, and that was a way that I've connected to. There's a huge poetry community on Twitter,
Oh,
which
cool.
is also very, it's very kind of linked with the writing community. I think you see a lot of both. And poetry was something I've always loved as well, but never really it's something I've read and dabbled in, but not anything I ever felt like I don't have a talent for this. Like, who am I, a
Yeah.
poet? But it's really been a lot of fun and a great way to express yourself. And I've even used poetry, like I'll put it on Instagram and stuff sometimes. Uh, I'll write a poem that sort of is like from one of the characters' perspectives,
Oh,
or that,
cool.
so the two kind of go together, and to see this sort of the two
That's a
different.
neat idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun and a great way to, I think, improve writing. And
Hmm.
there's like lots of daily writing prompts and poetry prompts and things out there. And when you put things out in the different communities, they a lot of times people will respond and retweet each other's work, and it's also very encouraging. It's a really great space for writers to get on and I don't know, learn and connect and
That's
really be
cool.
encouraged by other writers. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. I've not spent a ton of time on Twitter. Don't
Yeah.
really get it, but I may have to check.
I didn't either. And I went to the Writers Digest, the big conference in New York that they have.
Hmm.
And every agent I feel like was like, get on Twitter, get on Twitter, get on Twitter. And
Okay.
this was before the pandemic. So I think maybe I don't know how much has changed. I mean, a lot has changed, but um it's still a really active community out there. But yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing either. It's all like, hashtag based, but just getting um if you just go on Twitter, I don't think you just naturally find it. But once you start searching for the specific like writing community, poetry community under those hashtags, then you start to see sort of similar people posting and reposting. And
Okay.
but yeah, there was definitely a learning curve for sure. And the best part has been, connecting with specific people. Like you can have lots of followers, right? But
Right,
not
right.
really, not really connect. But like you find your few people that, you tend to sort of message with on a daily basis, and and it
That's
makes it
pretty
feel
cool.
more
Yeah.
small. Yeah. Yeah.
I I think it's amazing that we can make friends with people that we've never met and probably, may never meet in real life,
I
but
know it
still
is.
feel super connected to them. What a
I
what a
Yes.
gift we have in this time that we live in. And so do you have any other socials that you're on or email?
I mean, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. I need to get more active on Facebook. I
Facebook's a
try.
hard one because they
It
don't do anything to help you.
It is kind of, there's so much, I feel like there's so much going on. You've got like these different groups and people posting. It's kind of like, um, I don't know where to go. So I just think,
Yeah.
yeah, but I have tried to get better about that. I did like a Facebook event a month or two ago with a bunch of other sort of romance authors, and that was a lot of fun. And that
Oh,
was a
that's
great
cool.
way to interact. Yeah, and I think that was good. I did sort of well, through the publisher, we did like a blog tour in July, and that was kind of cool to see, interact with some of the different people that have these, different types of book blogs. And I need to get probably better about doing it. Like I like to do. I enjoy putting together like reels and little shorts and stuff on Instagram. I like
Yeah.
Well, actually, my kids and I, we have a TikTok account that we started during the pandemic. And
Oh, fun.
we had a bearded dragon during the pandemic. She was kind of, we call her our pandemic superstar. She was like, got us, she was really quite funny. She had a number of, TikToks that sort of, not went viral, but had quite a few views.
Yeah, that's so fun. I love that.
That was a lot of fun. So I like doing that kind of stuff. I like connecting that way, but it does kind of get, it gets overwhelming sometimes and can consume so much of your time. So it's it's hard to find that balance. Definitely like this summer, I've been more active on social media just from promoting the book. And I felt like by the end of the summer, I felt kind of burned out from it. And
Yeah.
I was missing the days of just quietly writing when no one knew that I was writing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's as an author, I mean, your job is to write.
Yeah.
That's yeah, you have to promote and market and all of that stuff as well. But there's nothing to promote if you don't write. So it is hard to have that balance. Yeah.
And I would say this and I think this is an important message. And I know it's maybe not, I don't know if it's a popular message, but I think somebody else would benefit from hearing it. Like, for me, the best part about getting to the point of having this book out was not getting the book out, which I thought it would be. Like I remember saying to my son, like, I'll know when I'm standing in a Barnes and Noble holding a book that has my name on it, that's on a shelf here, like I know I've arrived, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I got to do that, and
oh, that's awesome.
And it was wonderful and it's amazing. But when I look back, like the best part was like, sitting at my dining room table at 4 a.m., like in the character's heads, like, right, like the best part was really the journey of writing it. And I hope, so for people that, that are, anxiously waiting to get published or writers that are out there, like, all I want is to get published. I think as wonderful as that is, the journey of putting the book together was so much better than actually putting it out. I don't know. Like for me, it was. I mean, it's been wonderful getting it out, but like writing the book was a lot of fun. And so I think there's value in the journey of getting there, and I don't know, that would be my message to a lot of people, like enjoy the writing process.
Right. But hopefully the second book offers that same enjoyable journey.
So. I'm definitely trying to get more into, it's hard to find a balance of sort of promoting and being present and trying to interact and promote the first book and try and write the others. You spoke with, I listened to your podcast, was it Paulson?
Bonnie. Yeah.
Yes. And she had such a great energy and she's written so many books. And I was like,
she's written so many books.
Like how in the world? Like I wish, I don't know if I would love to get to a point where I could do that. I know everybody's kind of equipped differently, but
yeah,
I was in awe listening to her. And I would love to get to that point. And she sounded like she had so much passion for it too, which is just like a phenomenal combination. Cause I feel like either you like will run out of steam or, but it seemed like she really had found a great combination of the two of like getting it out there and keeping that momentum and the passion for it.
Yeah. That's the trick, isn't it? That is the thing. Well, I will post your handles, Facebook, Twitter, and IG in my show notes.
Okay, my website is just stephaniathompson.com and there's links to everything from there.
Oh, perfect. Okay, perfect. I will make sure that's in there. Thank you for joining me, Stephanie. I really enjoyed this.
And from Nashville too, I appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
Thanks for joining me today on the Literary Escape podcast. If you enjoy hearing the behind the book story, then join me in the Literary Escape Society. We're a community of travelers who love books, or maybe book lovers who love to travel. Either way, if you need an escape, a literary escape, come join us as we read our way around the world together, one book at a time. Check out the show notes to learn more about the Literary Escape Society. And we'll see you next time on the next episode.